Welcome to the Wisdom Circle. To subscribe or follow us on your favorite podcast platforms, please visit us at www.thewisdomcircle.com.
Welcome to the Wisdom Circle. We are happy to be here today. We are excited about the guest we have coming up in a few minutes. A lot of things going on. Everything's moving right now. Baseball, football, hockey, everything. It's a big time in the sports world, big time in the business world. All sorts of issues, the biggest stock market ever. The weather's incredibly crazy all over the country. Everything is humming one way or the other. So Tony and I enjoy being friends and colleagues. Tony Ponturo, my partner, and the actual thought man of the Wisdom Circle. We kicked that idea around long enough till we got it done. And Ramon Ramos, our producer, who is the reason you're listening to us right now. So thankful to all that. And Tony, how are you doing today? And I know there was a cool idea you wanted to bring up. So A, how are you? And B, let's roll.
Everything's good. It's fun. When we talked about the podcast, everyone has opinions. And now in today's technology world, we have platforms to express it. But I think more importantly, we've talked about how we bring on guests that will make, not only us smarter, but hopefully our audience. And I think our feedback has been good. Our audience continues to grow, which is, you always want to be going in the right direction. Both being ex-media guys, we sort of understand. You've been smartly more patient, as you like to remind all of us that it took Seinfeld 4 years to be popular, which is a good benchmark. But we'll keep teasing our guests until you decide to introduce him. But what people will learn, he's one of the great communicators in the broadcast world. And so I thought, as I was literally walking the dog this morning, which is where I do some of my better thinking, that communication is so key. And I was triggered by, we'll give them a little pop of a Progressive insurance commercial, where the Flo characters are trying to explain to, I'm going to say, a 10 to 11-year-old boy some of the economic insurance terms, and how they do it is sort of confusing. And the 11-year-old boy sort of looks at him with his smartphone and goes, "I'll just look it up," and walks away, which to me is a great way to set up that communication is so important. And we've talked a lot. We've had Gen Zs, we've had millennials, we've had, boomers like ourselves, Gen X's on the show, and how we all communicate in a way is different, but the principles of communication tend not to change. So with that, I'll sort of throw it to you, because I think you have some thoughts about that. But one of the things I've read is it's not what you say so much, also is how you say it. And so communication is very important across all generations of people.
That is really important. And I think in a world of multi-platform communication, it is so easy to be misconstrued, not understood. I'll talk about you and I, Tony. That's always a safe space for me.
Yeah.
We've had some exchanges on text that, what? And then we talk, and it's like, oh, God, of course, right? And so even two guys who've known each other for a long time can misconstrue things on a text. Words matter. Tone, to your point, matters. And you lose a lot of that when you're reading someone's words as opposed to talking to them. Speaking is so much fun, and it's such a good idea. That I can't emphasize enough how I'll tell people, look, I'm old school. I like to talk to people. But it's kind of, it's not unfortunate. It's just the world we live in. But that really is the best way to communicate.
Just picking up the phone. We don't really do that. And I think we've both been told by generations below us that, well, we don't do that, or we don't really need we had a guest, we won't name her, but I was trying to get her to get some of our timing right. And it turns out she was at a wedding that weekend, and she goes, "Well, I don't communicate if I've got some personal stuff going on." She just doesn't look at her email and doesn't look at her text. Knowing you and certainly knowing me, I could get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and still look at my phone to see if there's if I'm needed at 3 a.m. by someone, or please be needed by someone.
I talked about this with another friend who, I was texting from Europe, and he's like, "Jesus, you're waking me up at 3 a.m." I'm like, "Well, what are you doing looking at text at 3 a.m?" I'm like, "Just make it a bad phone. So, if somebody needs you, they'll call you." I mean, that's the one thing I also find. When people need you, they call you. I want to talk about one team building exercise that I think was a really good idea for everyone to try. And it's how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And you literally go into a room and you write down how to do it. And then you try to make the sandwich that way. So someone will say, take out the loaf of bread, open the jar of peanut butter, take out a knife, put the peanut butter on the bread. So basically, you're putting peanut butter on the packaging of the bread, because nothing says take the bread out of the package. And it, sounds right. Take out the bread, take out the peanut butter, take out the knife, put the peanut butter on the bread. Yeah, but whoops, right? Or someone says, "Oh yeah, it's over there." Over there. I'm sorry. What does over there mean? Next to the lamp with the bucket of sunglasses. Oh, right there. Gotcha. It's over there.
Well,
So
and
communication.
Yeah, no, that's a great sort of anecdote to things. The other thing that how it's so sensitive. I don't know, and then we're both go back a little bit with Bob Costas. So he does the playoff games, right, for Turner, and he got pretty criticized, and a lot of people trying to figure out, okay, was it what generation was giving him such a hard, what was he saying, or how was he presenting the games that so offended people on social media? And I've always liked Bob Costas. He's really not known to be a play-by-play person, although he's done it over the years. But he really got criticized for how he presented the game and presented the, they were doing the game and they supposedly talked too long with George Brett as if it was a, up close and personal on George Brett, but there was a game on the field, and that could be an interesting conversation with our guest later as well.
Now I'm ready. Ready to unveil. Well, I mean, because Costas is a name that I think in U.S. sports, baseball, football, basketball, hockey, is a name that's known. Our guest, which is really exciting, and I'm very thankful he's joined us, is Andrés Cantor, the greatest announcer in the history of FUTBOL football / soccer. For all of our fans who can't see us because they might be listening, or want to know the difference. So he is a legendary guy. He's an encyclopedia of soccer. I learned so much from Andrés Cantor, and I'll be grateful to him forever for it. I was the new kid in town, in 2016. So it was at the I wasn't born that day, but I was born at Telemundo in 2016, and someone once said, once you've been put in charge of anything, surround yourself with people who will tell you the truth, because you may not hear it. And Andrés was just so truthful and really helped make Telemundo sports a better place for all of us and me, and him, I hope. So I think we're just very lucky to have him with us. We'll have a fun conversation. It will be about a journey, personally, professionally. It'll be about looking ahead to a really big deal. Last time the World Cup was in the U.S. was 1994. So we see what's happened with the Women's World Cup in 2015, the numbers we brought in during the 2022 World Cup in Qatar on Peacock. Thankfully, Fox does not have a live streaming platform, so a daytime World Cup can only be watched on Peacock. We had a lot of fun there. And we'll talk about the changes in business and media distribution and communication, because no one does it better. So anything you want to
I'm as excited as you are, and hopefully our guests are. So let's no further ado, let's go.
Okay, without further ado, let's welcome Andrés Cantor. Welcome, Andrés Cantor. We are so happy and delighted to have you here with us today. It is an honor and a fun time because we've had some fun working together over the years, and as I've said enough, but plenty can't say it enough too, is that you've been a great friend and a great colleague and a great help to me and to all of the soccer fans in the country. So you're looking great. Tony and I spent the first almost 10 minutes talking about communications and things of that nature. And I just want to say hi and how are you doing today?
I'm awesome, Ray, and thank you so much for having me on this podcast. It's so nice to see Tony Ponturo after all these years, and I'm just thrilled to be with you guys to have fun. And I was listening to your introduction, and obviously we all adjusted in the way we communicate. I'm going to take this even farther to what your thoughts were when you were talking about, picking up the phone and calling. I found also that the new etiquette is to write somebody before, either on WhatsApp or text, are you available to talk? When before it used to be, pick up the phone, dial the numbers, and just call the person. Now it's like we have to ask permission. Are you available to talk? And, the phones are automated with messages. I can't talk right now. Busy, will call you back. It's like communication is shrinking somehow. And I was thinking when you guys were talking that how we went, the evolution of our business, right? How we went from families sitting to watch the newscast, the national newscast at 6:30 in front of the TV set having dinner, and everyone's attention was glued to the TV for 30 minutes. And now all these platforms that you're referring are telling you that 45 seconds of content is too long. Whoa. How did we go from like jumping on our cars to go buy 75 inches, 75 inches TVs or 85 inches TVs and be so happy and, put them in our living rooms. And then 3 out of 5, at least in my case, sporting events, I end up watching on my computer or on my iPad, on the plane on my phone. And I have this humongous, thank God the prices are not, that expensive anymore. I have 2 humongous TVs in my home, which, I watch 50, the big games I'll watch there if I'm home. And if not, the iPad, the phone, it's incredible how the evolution of technology and the business has evolved. So further to your commentary regarding communications.
That is so true. Yeah. I've even thought to myself sometimes when I'm watching something on my phone, oh, that's not so bad, But boy, I'm looking at a bigger TV right now. It's bad.
Yeah.
So you're right. You're right, especially about the permission to call, which, if it's late, I might, but not, if it's 2:00 in the afternoon. Because then, well, as a sales guy, I'm just, brought up in the sales side of the business, which doesn't hurt any president or CEO to know both sides of the ledger. It was always better to ask forgiveness than to be told no. So, make the phone call, let them say, I can't believe you just called me. I'll call you back. Okay, fine. Call me back. Done. I got my job. Tony, what do you got?
Well, it's also about scheduling. I was trying to set up I actually did just send an email saying, are you available to talk? And then I got an email back, yes, let's talk. And then I got an email that said, I can do this time, this date, this time. And if that doesn't work, I can do it 2 weeks later. It's like, well, wait a minute. What's going on between this date and 2 weeks later? My mentality is I'll find 5 minutes, even if it's 5 minutes, somewhere in between. But it's sort of a different sort of style. It's like, this is my schedule, and this is when I can do it. There's no sense of urgency, which,
Tony's got a bit of an itch for urgency.
there's a sense of urgency for me, but what's interesting.
I want to hear how the story ended. Did you talk to him? Did you just call him, or did you talk to him in 2 weeks?
I adjusted. I said, if I say I can't do this time, which I actually had a conflict, I'm not waiting 2 weeks. So I changed my schedule, which is also the mentality of things. But so I think what's be interesting, just a little bit, because I knew you, but I didn't know you. So of course you go on and you do a little Googling and stuff like that. And I didn't realize you actually came to Los Angeles, like I think somewhere as a teenager, and you're both an Argentinian citizen and a U.S. citizen. And then, so as we talk about, I remember talking at Anheuser-Busch about uh, sort of assimilating, as various ethnicities, whether you're Italian or Argentinian or Mexican or Irish or whatever. But sort of take us back there and how you went through that and how maybe you see things today.
Sure. First, I'm going to show you my Argentinian side. I'm going to drink. I drink mate every day, so here it is, the Argentinian national drink, if you will. Also, let me say that I had a lot of fun. I think I was a spokesperson for Anheuser-Busch, for Budweiser, actually, before all the new brands.
Yeah.
For 6 years, I had lots of fun going to St. Louis, meeting you all, and doing all the TV and pop-up sales that we did back in the day. My parents moved to this country when I was 14, almost 15, then went back to Argentina for a year and settled here in LA. Actually, I was just put on the San Marino High School Hall of Fame, which was my high school for a year and a half or 2 years.
Nice.
And fortunately, I couldn't attend. And then went on to USC, where I studied journalism, because I knew from a very young age that I wanted to be in this business. I had no clue that I was going to end up doing TV and radio, which is obviously what I do now, because I like to write. And I started working as a writer, as a correspondent for a big publishing company in Argentina that published like the Sports Illustrated of Hispanic media, called El Gráfico. It was very powerful in the sense that it was a different era. You get the news through them, the sports news. There was no TV, no internet, no satellite. If you lived here, you couldn't listen to radio or podcasts like these, like this one. So El Gráfico was it in all Spanish-speaking countries, and also they had a whole bunch of other magazines. And then I got my lucky break at Univision to call games, which I hadn't done before. And the rest, I guess, is history for my career. And I've been involved in TV and radio. My radio company turned 35 the other day, I started in 1987 at Univision, so it's been a long time already.
Well, right?
Yeah, that's well. First, I want to say that you're having the Argentinian national drink. Budweiser is the American national drink, or at least it was.
It was. Yeah.
Tony was there.
I don't know if it is. I don't know if it is anymore. I think it's Belgian/Brazilian, but it's
go.
okay. We'll make it our own.
Yeah, we don't talk about Budweiser too much unless Tony brings it up. But anyway, good. So the question I have then, so talking about like your journey, and you wanted to be in communications and you went to USC, but was it always because I want to be on the air calling football, soccer games, or was it I want a career behind a microphone?
Actually, this is the story. When I went to USC, there were classes that I could have taken which I did not, and which I regret, I guess. Even though I was already working at the same time while I was studying, I was already working as a media correspondent for this publishing company. So I had practice
Writing,
while I was being taught the theoretical. But since I wanted to write, I disregarded all the electronic media classes, TV and radio, etc. So I never thought I was going to do TV and radio. I wanted to be involved in soccer as an analyst, writing because that was a big thing back then. You all know, and in the newspapers and Sports Illustrated, how big that was, and how they covered the NFL, the NBA, and all the major sporting events. So I never thought, Ray, that I was going to end up doing this. When they called me for the audition, I did commentary in the first game, and then we took a break for lunch. And Jorge Berry, who recently passed, and which he's a name that is dear to my heart, because he's the guy that hired me for the first time, took me to lunch and said, I can tell that you know a lot about soccer, and when he said but, I was ready to shake his hand and go home. We had a second game to do. And he says, we're looking for a play-by-play guy. Do you think you can do play-by-play in the next game? I was 20. I had just turned 23. This was February. My birthday is at the end of the year. So December 22nd, if you want to send some gifts.
I knew I was invited to your party, but I was away.
And what the hell? I was almost 23. I said, yeah, of course. I had the ringing in my ears of how games are called, because I've been listening to it all my life.
Right.
And I went at it, and he called me, I believe, 3-4 days later, and offered me a full-time job.
It's interesting, Andres, that being a writer. I always feel that sports is sort of, it's a story being told live as we go. And so what's the story being told, which is why we get so passionate about it. And so probably that, I'm speaking for you, but that mindset of knowing how to tell a story, you were able to translate that on the air to tell the story of the game. David Hill, the longtime head of Fox Sports, who did a lot of innovation in sports, had been a news reporter in Australia when Rupert Murdoch brought him over first to start Sky TV and then to Fox Sports. And I think he used to say his strength was, I was used to telling stories, being a reporter. What's of interest here? And he just translated it into sports. And I would sense that it was probably more organic, but something you did as well.
Sure. Let me tell you a little bit of my evolution into, not my evolution, because I never thought about doing play-by-play or being in radio and TV until one day, talking about writing the story. I covered lots of boxing in Las Vegas. I lived in LA, and they sent me like every other weekend. I went to cover a big boxing fight in Vegas. So here I am struggling to meet the deadline, writing on my old typewriter. Oh my God. And looking at my notes. Yeah, he jabbed him at 2 minutes 11 of the third round, and the other fighter clinched and this and that, and I'm struggling. I'm fighting to get the story out. And out of the corner of my eye, I see the guys from Argentine television. There's an Argentine fighter fighting for the title. I see the Argentine TV guy saying, and this is all from Vegas. Good, have a good night, and see you next time. They took out their headset, and while I was looking at the second round, I was still struggling. In the seventh round, these guys were probably already having dinner somewhere in the hotel. I said, I think I like, how TV and radio is, because it's like you call it live as you see it, and then, you hung up and see you later. It just stayed in my mind, and then coincidentally, I had this audition a few months later. But yes and no, Tony, in the sense that yes to obviously giving context and storytelling, but being the play-by-play, I have to do it. I'm rushing through the identification of who has the ball and this and that. And obviously, and Ray knows this, I weave a lot of opinion. And obviously, I prepare myself. I can't make the game more exciting. The game, it is what it is. I can, my hope is to have people on the edge of their seats while they're watching. I put in a lot of passion, not because it's fake, it's because I feel it, because I love the game. And I am prepared with, obviously, stories. If there's a 2-minute interruption because the guy is hurt and I know something about that player, I'll weave in the life story there. If there is a break in the action or the tempo slow down and I have something which I find to be meaningful to the audience about a certain player, I'll weave that in as well. So yes, definitely it did help because I have the big picture in mind, but then my transformation into the guy that goes at 140 miles an hour is a little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what always comes through is your passion for the game. And I think that's where, one of the compliments, and I want to ask you one other thing about Moscow and Russia in 2018. But so I said in 2022, not to do too much sports because we're talking about communication, but this is communication. So Fox does not have a live streaming platform. NBC does on Peacock. If you wanted to watch a World Cup game live at 3 p.m, you had to watch it on Peacock. And we were getting tweets from games Andres would call about, I don't speak Spanish, but I have never had more fun listening to a soccer game in my life. And I will probably always watch Telemundo from here on out because I can tell what's going on the screen. I don't need somebody to tell me he kicks it left, he kicks it right, he kicks a goal. I want to hear this enthusiasm and this passion. So, I think give you that was the thing. I don't know if you could help yourself, Andres, but the passion always came through. So there's a question. So did you ever have to make yourself sound excited, or was it always just like natural because of the love of the game?
No, it's natural, Ray.
Yeah, I would think so.
I try to be as passionate on every game that I do. Obviously, when the World Cup comes around, it's a totally different ball game because emotions, at least on my side, emotions are very involved. As you could tell by an old man crying on the World Cup final in 2022, which reshaped my. I mean, I had my 1994 moment, which turned my career around.
Yeah.
And then 2022 came, and now I'm not the goal guy anymore. I'm the guy that made everyone cry. You'd be amazed at the, before 10 out of 10 would see me and start, hey, go. And now 10 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 being Argentinian or any nationality, they come up to me and say, we cried with you when you cried on air when Argentina won the World Cup.
Part 2 of this podcast will be available next week. For more information, please visit us at www.thewisdomcircle.com. Thank you.